And with that, I now go to the gentleman from New York, Mr. Jones, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the chairman of the full committee, Nadler, for holding this important hearing. Thanks as well to our witnesses, and especially to Ms. Payton and Mr. Gross for your courageous testimony. It's about time that we confronted the power the biggest corporations wield over workers, monopsony power. Just as monopoly power enables corporations to dictate the prices and quality of the things that we buy and the services that we rely on, so monopsony power enables corporations to set our wages and our working conditions, dominating the job market. Today's testimony makes one thing clear. Restoring competition in the labor market is essential to restoring economic and democratic power to the American people, to making sure that everyone gets their fair share of pay and say. And as to Commissioner Wilson's concerns about the FTC's process, let me just say this. The subcommittee only received the commissioner's testimony around 8 p.m. last night, even though this hearing was postponed by a week. So it's somewhat surprising to hear complaints about the process at the FTC at a hearing on protecting the economic liberty of American workers. We have frontline workers who have taken time off to testify about their experiences today, and that is what we should be focusing on in this hearing. Professor Posner, as you have testified, mergers are a central cause of corporations' tremendous power over workers. Ms. Payton has experienced that firsthand. Yet the DOJ and the FTC have never challenged a merger to protect workers, not even once. How should we strengthen merger review to empower workers and prevent corporate power from consolidating even further?
The example of UPMC, which Ms. Payton provided, is truly an amazing story. As she mentioned, the current hospital is the result of dozens and dozens of mergers. And the single company controls 40 hospitals, more than 40 hospitals in the Pittsburgh area, and thousands of clinics. It's a true monopolist and a monopsonist. How all those mergers could have gone through when we nominally have a merger review process is a mystery to me. So to answer your question, I think the answer is actually straightforward. The Justice Department and the FTC currently have what are called merger guidelines, where they provide certain rules or guidelines that regulate when mergers are permitted and when they're forbidden. The guidelines are probably too weak at the moment, even with respect to product markets, but they say nothing about labor markets. And so if Congress were to direct the FTC and the DOJ to add a section on labor market, or Congress could just legislate this directly. And what it could do is it could provide certain thresholds when certain mergers occur that have major labor market effects, and this can actually be quantified to be very precise. The merger will be presumptively blocked and would be only permitted if the merging companies can prove to the satisfaction of a court that as a result of the merger, efficiencies would be produced that would result in higher wages and better working conditions than if the merger did not take place. There's a lot of experience on the product market side with this type of analysis. I think it would be fairly simple for regulators to use this type of analysis for the labor market effects of mergers.
Thank you so much. Dr. Kalachi, in your written testimony, you've said that we should set out clear, bright line rules that make it easier to block harmful mergers. Would you please elaborate?
Sure. So actually, this is a great follow-up to Dr. Posner's point. A lot of those, those sort of fact-intensive, demonstrations of efficiency allow, both parties hire economic consultants, they hire law firms, and judges are not specialists in economics. So those sort of processes allow, consultants can muddy the waters, make it very difficult for judges to reach a clear decision. So, I would say it'd be better to have, sort of very clear rules, clear guidelines that apply to these situations rather than, relying on, allowing defense sort of make the case for these efficiencies that tend not to really arise. So the product market, to me, actually shows how the labor market should not follow the product market case.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Issa, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'd now ask unanimous consent that